Dear what?
the onboard replay there, clearly the two Alfa Romeos tangling.
And Alfa Romeo were with the stewards this morning, trying to fight those points back that were taken away from them in Imola, with a really complex set of conflicting regulations. They're hoping Raikkonen will get those 2 World Championship points back. He will not get any World Championship points today. That's a shame. And up against his teammates, almost like he got such a slipstream. There's no DRS involved, so he got such a slipstream from his teammate, and it looks like it caught him out.
You can see the safety car waiting. The Mercedes GTR is waiting for the field to come and get to it, and the field going through the pit lane there, obviously because of the debris that is on that main straight. Well, that just means a little reset for a few moments after a very absorbing opening lap. Valtteri Bottas keeping the lead, starting from pole ahead of his teammate Lewis Hamilton. Has now got Max Verstappen right behind him. Sergio Perez losing a place to Carlos Sainz. Lando Norris and Esteban Ocon swapping positions before Norris settled into 6th ahead of Ocon, Leclerc, Gasly, Vettel, all where they started. And we can just look at the race start once again with Martin.
Yeah, Bottas got away very well on pole position, and Max Verstappen deciding to slipstream him, and then Lewis Hamilton filled the gap in. So the 3 of them are away, and the fast-starting Sainz then has to try to cover the inside against Perez there in the Red Bull. Perez will remember well the drama he had here at the start last year, and looks a bit tentative through there as Sainz, way off track actually, heads off down to turn 5 in 4th place. Then Ocon will steam up the inside of the hairpin, having a look to get past Lando Norris. And Norris later in the lap will pull a beautiful move around the outside of turn 11 to claim that place back. But you have to say, the front 3 looking very comfortable straight away. Red Bull, if anything, with a little bit more confidence in the hands of Max Verstappen.
Just a little bit of initial wheel spin from Sergio Perez, and he's already got the Ferrari alongside him before they head down into turn 1. The momentum of Carlos Sainz carries him through an upper place.
Yeah, he's got armfuls of understeer on the Red Bull. He's turned, look how much steering lock he's got on, trying to generate some grip, some camber thrust from those front tyres, gently squeezing the throttle where he spun off yesterday. And Daniel Ricciardo has made up 3 places in this Grand Prix so far as he heads down to the first corner. Need to be careful he doesn't become meat in a sandwich down there, but pulls it to the inside, and a big lock-up from Tsunoda. That's a really acrid smell when you're following another car that just scorches its front tyre down the road. Hello, welcome back to the track, Daniel.
And that's where Kimi Raikkonen ran into the back of his teammate Antonio Giovinazzi, lost half of his front wing, and the second half, the remaining half, buried underneath the nose.
Yeah, he's the most experienced man in the field by some margin, but that looked a touch of a rookie error, didn't it, from Kimi, whether he was focusing on something else. Christian Horner on the pit wall, what can you tell us from your 2 drivers?
Obviously, decent start for Max. Shame to lose out the place to Carlos with Sergio. Tyre temperature, obviously, on the medium was always going to be the challenge. But it's going to be a matter of getting these tyres up to temperature and then seeing what kind of pace we have.
Was it very much starting on the medium tyres? You kind of expected a challenge from behind for at least 1, if not 2 of your drivers, and you were prepared to sacrifice that for longer gains as the race goes on.
Yeah, that's the trade and the risk you play. But it's important we get Sergio past Carlos quickly because we want him to play a role in this race with, against the Mercedes. So it's going to be vital to try and clear him as quick as we can.
Christian, thanks ever so much. We'll be back with you a little bit later on in this race. We're still behind the safety car, which is now going to use the start-finish straight. So the debris on the straight's been cleared away. You saw the marshals a few moments ago making sure the Alfa Romeo was out of harm's way, and we can go back to Ted Kravitz's way.
If they're using the main straight, and I can see this because all the marshals done a great job around here, about 15 of them rushed on, cleared every bit of debris the eye could see, then I don't quite know why they don't just put the safety car in now, Crofty, and they get going, because everything is cleared away, and that was to be underlined by the fact they're actually going to go over that
2 seconds,
that area now.
Rear brakes are very hot.
brakes very hot for Valtteri Bottas. Do carry on.
In any case, yeah, Christian Horner optimistically then saying that Checo's got to get past Sainz. I might flip that, Crofty, put it the other way. I fancy Sainz to put a move on Verstappen on those soft tyres. And they're all doing their utmost to warm up their tyres on the front straight now as they pass me. And let's see what happens. I think Ferrari thinking that Sainz might fancy a bit of a move here on those red striped tyres.
You'd wonder why brakes would get hot following the safety car, but we saw in Imola with Aston Martin the warm-up protocols when you're not using the MG UK, the motor generator unit, kinetic to slow the car down. You're using the brakes. The rear brakes on these cars are really very small because the motor generator helps slow the car down when it's topping the battery up. They're not doing a lot of battery filling or deploying, of course, at these speeds, so they have to be careful not to just mechanically overheat those. There's no point in carrying great big brakes around with if you don't need them at all times. So, typical Formula One, the rear brakes are absolutely on the limit to save weight and mass, centre of gravity.
I always think of them as like the arms of a T-Rex. You've got this great big hulking beast and the skinniest, shortest little arms to go with it is perhaps the best way to describe rear brakes on a Formula One car.
And of course they want to keep pumping heat into those discs because that then radiates into the wheel and the carcass of the tyre. It's up to Valtteri Bottas. Said the safety car's coming in this lap, okay?
No, so I'm assuming we're going to get another lap behind it.
And just to confirm, we still think plan A. Yeah, confirm.
And I wonder if they're just still. Raikkonen's car was out of the way. The pit straight's clean, as Ted said. Why are we not getting in the way? So something else out there is bothering Michael Massey in race control at the moment, because I have to say it looks like we're ready to go.
Well, behind the safety car after the two Alfa Romeos came together, Giovinazzi unscathed. Kimi Raikkonen lost his front wing. Kimi Raikkonen with 17,680 laps completed in Formula One, but he won't be adding any more to that total, just the one he's added to today. And the only driver out of this race so far, Daniel Ricciardo, down in 13th, has made up 3 places from the start. Lance Stroll has made up 1 place. He was 17th, now currently 16th. We're on board with Carlos Sainz, who started 5th and now 4th, and will be very much interested in getting past Max Verstappen at the restart.
Keep an eye on the brakes. Yeah, copy. Yeah, nothing to worry about at the moment.
And the restart is coming soon, don't you worry. You can see safety car ending. We can get this race underway once again. Verstappen will want to be challenging Hamilton here, but he's going to have to watch his mirrors, Martin.
Yes, indeed. Although Sainz did not have tremendous straight line speed through free practices, although of course a slipstream into a headwind, there will be no DRS for 2 laps after the safety car comes in, and it's then Bottas's job to back the pack up, let the safety car get far enough away so you won't overtake it before it heads into the pit lane, as they're in turn 11. And we're getting to the backing up phase now, I would have thought.
And no overtaking till, of course, you get to the start-finish line. Is it in Valtteri Bottas's best interest to do what happened in Mugello and back them up right until the moment when overtaking can take place? Such a long straight.
He's better legging it through turn 14. That looks a touch early, but I don't think he's going yet. It was just, but you're not allowed to accelerate hard and brake hard, and give the concertina. Of course, we saw a massive crash, didn't we, with Vettel as well, back in Fuji, running into Mark Webber. You have to keep a consistent speed.
Well, they're all queuing up behind Valtteri Bottas, who's keeping them guessing as to when he is going to leg it. Safety car is in. We are going to go racing again. Bottas once more is going to keep this pack backed up as long as he possibly can. Now he's going for it, and he's got the jump then on Hamilton and Verstappen behind him. Through the heat haze come 19 Formula One cars. Hamilton trying to pull out of the slipstream that Max Verstappen's getting behind him. Verstappen goes into turn 1 ahead of Hamilton. Got a little bit squirrely narrowly on the exit of turn 1, but that was a great move by Max Verstappen. He's up into second place. Sergio Perez is now behind Lewis Hamilton, ahead of Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz and Esteban Ocon.
Verstappen was fine for track limits, but Hamilton was even further off the track anyway, so don't imagine that's going to be a problem.
There goes Lando Norris down the inside. There's a lock-up from Carlos Sainz. That might give Charles Leclerc a chance to get past his teammate in a moment, but Lando Norris is up into 4th place, ahead of Sergio Perez. Sainz 6th, Leclerc 7th, ahead of Esteban Ocon, who's not had the best start. He lost 1 place because now he's back ahead of Leclerc according to that timing screen, and there, down the inside, he's going for it again as the door is firmly slammed shut by Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, I think Lewis perhaps expected Valtteri Bottas was going to go all the way to the line before letting the car go, and it was about halfway, wasn't it? It was sort of neither nor, really, and it took off and it caught Lewis by surprise.
George Russell has lost 3 places. Now Fernando Alonso ahead of him. Daniel Ricciardo is up to 11th, but leading this race still. And out in front for Mercedes, Valtteri Bottas ahead of Max Verstappen, who has got ahead of Lewis Hamilton at the restart. So whatever Bottas did, it did wonders for him. Might not have helped his teammate too much. Verstappen took full advantage. The gap between Bottas and Verstappen, 0.6 of a second. As down the main straight we come. Fernando Alonso is looking for a move on Antonio Giovinazzi. That's not going to happen. He stays down in 13th place.
Yeah, it's looking good for Lando Norris, of course, up there in 4th with the McLaren on the soft tyres, but Charles Leclerc now up to 7th on the medium compound, just behind his teammate Sainz. That also looks very good for later in the race.
And Lance Stroll ahead of George Russell, who continues to struggle somewhat. Let's go to Sky Race Control. Paul di Resta.
Yeah, I was just watching back at that replay, Crofty. Max actually even had to lift at the restart because he got that much of a jump in Hamilton. And here it's here, and then basically slotted into the back and went the other way.
We can just see that replay now.
You're not allowed to pass until the line, capital L, and that's why he had to get out of it.
That a boy.
Yeah, good driving.
Yeah, Bottas did what he did for his own interests. And Mercedes now, who were running 1 and 2, are running 1 and 3. Verstappen taking full advantage. We're now on board with Lando Norris. Sergio Perez is the Red Bull ahead of him. Down the inside goes Lando Norris, getting very racy in these opening stages. Needs to move again.
Carrying so much confidence, Lando Norris, at the moment. As they're now starting to edge back towards Bottas, so 1.2 seconds covers the top 3. So when they do establish DRS, Bottas is within range at the moment of Max Verstappen.
Yeah, there's a long way to go in this race yet. You can see the DRS in the rear wing, that gap that opens up on the new DRS straight between turns 4 and 5. It's not a very long straight, but it does allow those running behind, in 2nd and 3rd in this case, just to get that much closer for when they start their attack down the main straights.
How quick Verstappen is through the middle part of the lap, very, very late on the brakes. Remembering, of course, they're carrying still over 100 kilograms of fuel in these cars to get them through the Grand Prix. No refueling during the race, of course. And as it's going to be dry, if you're new to Formula One, you need to know that they have to run 2 different compounds of tyre. I know a lot of you know that, but if you're new to it, welcome.
Max Verstappen is very much poised to strike Valtteri Bottas down the main straight here. The DRS should give you about a 14km/h speed advantage along this main straight, and with a decent slipstream as well, and a toe behind the Mercedes. Watch Max Verstappen start to edge ever closer to Valtteri Bottas. Now is turn 1 going to come to Bottas's rescue? Verstappen has a little look down the inside, but he's just too far back to make a move on this occasion. Bottas survives for the time being. He's ahead of Verstappen, ahead of Hamilton, ahead of Lando Norris, who has finished in the top 4 in both races so far this season and finds himself in 4th at the moment, ahead of Perez, Sainz, Leclerc, Ocon, Gasly and Vettel.
Lewis hanging on, but that's how it looks, isn't it? Just through this phase anyway, but he is critically still within DRS himself, Lewis. So he'll get that service then over the top of the hill between 4 and 5, as well as down the pit straight.
On board with Lewis Hamilton. You get a great view when you ride on board of the undulating nature of this Portimao track. They describe it as a roller coaster. It's very much like a roller coaster, but there's so much downforce on these Formula One cars. You don't get that lifting off feeling quite as much as you do on, I don't know, the big one at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, if you've ever experienced that. So the May Bank Holiday weekend, Martin. It's racing, but exhilarating at the same time.
Take your word for that, Crocky. The Nürburgring wing does it for me. The old one.
Oh, getting all out of shape there. Max Verstappen coming out of turn 14. Is that going to give Lewis Hamilton a little bit of impetus, I wonder, because Hamilton is within striking distance of the Red Bull down the straight. Bottas continues to lead them. We're on lap 11 of 66. Here comes Hamilton on Max Verstappen. Hamilton retakes that second place ahead of the Red Bull, and that move started all the way back at turn 14 as Verstappen tries to fight it into turn 4. Hamilton just stays ahead.
Yeah, and Lewis getting his elbows out just as Max did in turn 2 in Imola. That's completely fair enough. You're going to try and go around the outside. You have to expect your rival to just take the racing line. He's not obliged to give you space.
1 point between them in the World Championship. Hamilton is back ahead then of Max Verstappen and chasing after his teammates.
Is there a little mistake in there somewhere? I'm just trying to work out where Max suddenly lost ground. I think he just turned 14, wasn't it? On the way into 14, the back end stepped out, and that cost him dearly.
That's a part of the track that Max was saying he was being affected by the wind throughout this weekend. The wind is kind of blowing you away to the outer edges of the track through that long right-hander.
There's a fearless run down there from Lewis Hamilton, just staying right, keeping right. Pretty dirty in there. Bit of a chance of picking up punches in places like that. And yeah, just got his shoulder out for turn 3. And why not?
So, Kimi Raikkonen, the one car out of this race, the stewards have decided no investigation necessary in that collision between himself and his teammate Antonio Giovinazzi. The gap out in front, 8 tenths.
This is sitting back on the stage. It's unbelievable.
And Max Verstappen would like a little bit more power because look, the Mercedes now, Hamilton at least 2 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen, who is just starting to struggle a bit for straight line speed. Ted Kravitz, down to you.
Sergio Perez not happy with the way Lando Norris overtook him. He feels that he went all the 4 wheels off the track limits at turn 4. He's asking his engineers to refer it to the FIA. He wants Norris to give him that place back to P4. Let's see what happens.
Well, nothing doing so far from the stewards on that one. Mazepin and Tsunoda twice and Mick Schumacher have all had track limit notifications.
And front casing's just starting to creep up a little.
But nothing for Sergio Perez.
So Lewis now happy with the way his tyres are, the balance of his car. It looks like he's just really coming alive. He enjoyed that pass on Max, didn't he? But you can just sense now he's got the balance, he's got the confidence. It looks like he's just sort of hanging on a little bit in their first opening stages after the restart. But now it looks like it's on rails.
Looking a little further down the field, Daniel Ricciardo has made his way up into 11th place. DRS on Sebastian Vettel down the main straight. And I wonder if we'll be going for a move in a few moments' time. Bottas and Hamilton heading through turn 1, separated by 0.3 of a second. Verstappen starting to get a little detached from this Mercedes battle. Lando Norris getting ever more detached from Max Verstappen. And Verstappen's teammate Sergio Perez still sat behind the McLaren. Then comes Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc. Sainz ahead of Leclerc, the 2 Ferraris, 6 and 7. Ocon runs a respectable 8th ahead of Gasly and Vettel, who has got Daniel Ricciardo behind him, but now just out of DRS range. So a better lap that time from Sebastian Vettel keeps Ricciardo at bay for the time being. Giovinazzi is 12th ahead of Alonso. Stroll up to 14th. Russell down to 15th.
Yuki, no more track limit. We got the second in turn 1 now. No more.
And Yuki Tsunoda, 2 warnings, then you get a 3rd and a black and white flag, and after that you start to get 5-second penalties. Latifi and Mick Schumacher completes the order as you can see it on your screen. Nikita Mazepin is still running. Paul di Resta is at Sky Race Control.
Yeah, just to confirm back to what Perez was talking about, and I think Norris did go outside track limits, actually a bit like what Verstappen did in Q3 when he got his lap deleted and overtook Perez. So I wouldn't be surprised if the FIA do something about that.
You would have thought. thought they'd have done something about it already, because it was a few laps ago, Martin.
It was, luckily for McLaren and Norris, if they do decide he's got to give the place back, Perez is still behind him. Sometimes we see that kind of thing, and then you're 3 places in front of the car you were squabbling with and maybe passed illegally, and then you're really in trouble because you can't just easily give the place back. So if that's going to happen, and we need to see another replay of that with a bit of luck, but just tightening the car up they now for the top 3. So it's ebbing and flowing.
Perez's argument is, yes, I'm still behind Lando Norris, it's an easy swap to make, but after 4 or 5 laps here running behind the car that wouldn't necessarily have been running behind had he overtaken me, the correct way, if indeed he has transgressed the rules. Nothing from the stewards so far on that. Lewis Hamilton has the fastest lap of the race. He's 8/10 behind his teammate Valtteri Bottas. How long though can he run so close to his teammate without starting to overheat the brakes, without it affecting the tyres in a one-stop race? A tyre age 17 laps, they'll want them to go that much longer than this.
Yeah, the pit straight is so powerful in terms of the slipstream and the DRS, but otherwise it wouldn't be a bad idea for Bottas to back his teammate up into Verstappen.
Mercedes backing his teammate up, we've seen that before.
I think it's all about Valtteri now, isn't it?
Very much so, and at the moment he is controlling the race. Last lap he was a couple of tenths slower than his teammate.
For Valtteri, I mean.
Yeah.
But the menace of his teammate Lewis Hamilton ever present in his mirrors.
Sergio Perez is now ahead of Lando Norris, who has not seen it other than on the timing tower. So is that an instruction for Norris to let Perez pass, or did Perez pull the overtake? Wouldn't be at all surprised if it wasn't an instruction. Sergio Perez in that first sector of this lap, 1.3 seconds quicker than Lando Norris. So it looks like a message was conveyed there, I think.
Indeed. George Russell's dropped back down to 16, so he's not had particularly good at race pace. So what are we going to see now?
Perez on Norris. I'll put it this way. Lando Norris was fighting harder to keep Lewis Hamilton at bay at Imola than he was to keep Perez behind there.
Nice move.
If it was indeed a move, then that Red Bull has very much got some top-line speed on the McLaren. Here's Yuki Tsunoda down the inside of Fernando Alonso. Third race for Yuki Tsunoda in Formula 1. 314th race for Fernando Alonso in Formula 1. And having a good old tussle down there, aren't they? Ted, to you.
Yeah, I'm looking at the back of the McLaren engineers on their pit wall. Obviously, I can't see who they're talking to, whether it is the FIA, but I'm pretty sure that move was just because Lando's tyres are knackered. He's being told on his radio how to keep the front alive, but soft tyres, we're about a lap away from the pit window being open for the soft tyres to come in, aren't we? They're starting to get a bit warm now, the soft tyres.
Interesting. Average time lost in the pit stops about 25 seconds. It's quite a lengthy delay from your overall race time, which is why the engineer is quite keen for there to be only one stop rather than a 2-stop race here in Portimao. And not stopping at the moment, Lewis Hamilton 2 tenths quicker than Bottas through the opening sector of this lap 16 of 66, which Bottas continues to lead. Hamilton's lost 3 tenths on Bottas through the middle parts of the lap.
Ferrari are going to have a potential headache because you have to assume Leclerc's mediums will be somewhat more durable as we get a bit further into this race than Sainz's soft tyres. You don't really want to pit. Yeah, in fact, these teams are there hoping they can go just in case there's another cheap stop with a safety car, a virtual safety car down the road.
Yeah, if a safety car comes out again and you make the pit stop there, 15 seconds is your loss. So you kind of save yourself 10 seconds on that one. Hence the desire, as you were saying, Martin, to start with these medium compound tyres. And that front right of Valtteri Bottas starting to open up a little bit, it seems.
And Perez can get on with it now, but he's 8 seconds adrift of his teammate Verstappen, but he's 3/4 of a second faster than Norris now that he's passed him.
Norris with a 1:23.7 on that last lap, Perez with a 1:23.0. You can see the difference that overtake has made for Sergio Perez. Also lapping in the 1:23.7s, Carlos Sainz and he's going to start keeping, as Ted was saying, his teammate at bay a little bit, because the soft tyre runners just starting to lose a bit of their stickiness, a bit of their grip. They don't want to be holding up a teammate and giving them a bit more of a headache for the second part of this race.
Oh, look at that big slide in 13 for Bottas, but then Hamilton, his car didn't really make it into 13. So, surprising. It's a little bit blustery at the top of the hill there, but surprising to see both Mercedes at this stage on the mediums struggling there in turn 13.
And that's taken Hamilton, I think, out of DRS range. If it was through the DRS detection zone, it might just have done there. And that's not going to help his chances down the main straight. He didn't get DRS down this main straight, but he got a really nice slipstream because it picked up about 0.3 of a second down that straight. We're on board now with Daniel Ricciardo, who I said had Sebastian Vettel very much in his sights a couple of laps ago. Vettel has been putting in as good a lap times as he possibly can, but can he keep Ricciardo at bay here? Ricciardo's going to go around the outside, isn't he? With DRS assistance into turn 1 and into the points as well.
You're damned if you do, damned if you don't there. You've got to try and move, but then often if they've got enough momentum, you're just basically giving them the shortest route along the racing line, which is what Seb did there, but if he'd just sat there and not tried something, it would have looked wrong.
Tell you what, this is a wonderful drive so far from Daniel Ricciardo. That's the move on Sebastian Vettel, takes him into the points. He started 16th on the grid on the medium tyre, so not an aggressive strategy from McLaren, thinking of the long game, and he might just deliver some decent points. They think they can get him pretty much into the top 7 for this race. Of course, Daniel Ricciardo will be aiming a little bit higher because that's what he does. Paul, the rest to you.
Yeah, Verstappen just been told main time loss for Bottas is mid to exit of turn 8, but I guess we know why that is. So that to me tells me they're playing the long game. They're conserving tyres much more than what Mercedes are up front at the moment.
Yeah. Who pulls the trigger first when we get round to the pit stops? Who wants to come in and change to new tyres in this absorbing top 3 battle here? Valtteri Bottas, you would imagine, will get the preferential choice of strategy at Mercedes because he's leading.
Yeah, and it must be hurting Hamilton's tyres in the dirty, turbulent air coming off the back of his teammate. Out front, you just slide a little bit more. You've got less downforce everywhere. You can't brake quite as late. And it does seem as if, Bottas is just controlling this nicely, but he's not too far from the limit, is he, as we saw on the previous lap?
Absolutely. Tyres starting to lose their stickiness, wind blowing you around a little bit. The trees look quite still in the background, but it's still gusting at pretty much the same speed that we've had all weekend long here. We're near the coast, and the coast of the Algarve, as beautiful as it is, just down the road from this Portimao track, and you're about 124 metres above sea level at this particular part of the track, so you are fairly exposed. These cars are very sensitive to the wind. As we ride on board with Lewis Hamilton, who has been staring at the rear wing of his teammate Valtteri Bottas for quite some time now. But let's see how much he's going to be staring and how much he's going to be gaining down the main straight here. The gap was 0.8 of a second at the end of the last lap. It's half a second as they cross the line now. Hamilton's got DRS. He's within touching distance of his teammate. He's ahead of his teammate Lewis Hamilton. Goes round the outside of Valtteri Bottas. And wow, what another good move that was from the world champion.
I didn't think he'd get through there. I really didn't. But Valtteri made a big dive to the right, which left him at such a tight angle on the way into turn 1. He had to lift off even more. And they're not going to give Lewis Hamilton a second chance for something like that. He'll always take the first one. So Valtteri's really gone heavily right, look. So he's pinched himself into turn 1. And Lewis has just played the angles and steamed around the outside.
Yeah, okay, Valtteri, you defend. Thank you very much. I'll take the longer, faster way round the outside.
Yeah, you can imagine how much Valtteri had to lift off there to make the corner. He doubled the angle of the corner. Not really, but he significantly increased the angle of his corner.
Well, he had a practice on Max Verstappen and he gave it a go on Valtteri Bottas, and on both occasions Lewis Hamilton has made up a place and he has gone into the lead now of this Portuguese Grand Prix. He's got the fastest lap as well. If Valtteri Bottas had been controlling this race nicely for about 19 laps, at the start of lap 20, that control has been lost, and that half a second gap at the end of the last lap between Bottas and Hamilton is now a second gap, but it's in Hamilton's favour. Second and a half swing during the course of one lap. Hamilton has been released and Bottas now needs to charge after him.
He does. If he was carrying any reserve pace, he needs to deliver it. That was a touch clumsy from Valtteri.
And Max Verstappen, on the naked eye here, got DRS down this straight, starting to get a bit closer to Valtteri Bottas as well. Bottas's troubles may be continuing.
That is pretty sharp.
Right, Hamilton would like to come in. So, Kravis, any sign of activity in that pit lane?
No, nothing so far. We had a little movement at McLaren, maybe they can pit Lando. Ferrari thinking about a stop for Sainz sometime soon. But you've got to say that move from Hamilton on Bottas had been coming for a couple of laps. He's been getting closer and closer. And I'm just wondering whether his tyres are shot, because he's holding his own there. Bottas has got to watch out for Verstappen behind him as Verstappen's moving away. Just not sure whether Bottas has got the pace. Well, clearly just haven't got the pace, raw pace of Hamilton today.
It was classic Lewis opportunist, wasn't it?
Yep.
Streetwise, give him a glimmer of a chance and he'll be through. But of course they've got no brand new hard tyres, the two Mercedes drivers.
Right.
They've been lightly used, but they don't have an absolutely brand new set to put on.
So if the soft compound tyre, say Pirelli, can do about 35 laps, Mercedes can't bring Hamilton or Bottas in now, because that will be, 57 as Ferrari are going to come in. They'll give you 57 laps, and then you've still got 9 laps to try and make up on that soft tyre where the performance has really gone from it. So if they are shot, as Lewis Hamilton was saying, he's going to have to put up with him for a bit longer. Carlos Sainz is coming in, started on the soft compound tyre and makes his stop in the race onto a set of mediums that Ferrari will be hoping can do 44 laps. Pirelli said they can do 45.
He'll be hoping to get out in front of George Russell down into turn 1. Well, that's not going to happen. And then next up is Latifi, and then Mick Schumacher and Mazepin. So Sainz then drops back to 60.
But is that now going to trigger have to put up with him for a bit longer? Carlos Sainz is coming in, started on the soft compound tyre and makes his stop in the race onto a set of mediums that Ferrari will be hoping can do 44 laps. Pirelli said they can do 45.
He'll be hoping to get out in front of George Russell down into turn 1. Well, that's not going to happen. And then next up is Latifi, and then Mick Schumacher and Mazepin. So Sainz then drops back to 60.
But is that now going to trigger have to put up with him for a bit longer? Carlos Sainz is coming in, started on the soft compound tyre and makes his stop in the race onto a set of mediums that Ferrari will be hoping can do 44 laps. Pirelli said they can do 45.
He'll be hoping to get out in front of George Russell down into turn 1. Well, that's not going to happen. And then next up is Latifi, and then Mick Schumacher and Mazepin. So Sainz then drops back to 60.
But is that now going to trigger
third gear, mate, in the way that he talks to his engineer. He says, I can't use third gear, mate, it's lagging. And to which he gets the normal, understood, Max, response. What could that be? Not synced properly?
Well, the gears are either in or they're out. There's so much pressure and energy in the gearbox that blow themselves to bits if they're not. So it's an engine power delivery situation. It's not a gearbox situation as such. Your gearbox can't lag. They just blow up.
Back to that radio message from Valtteri Bottas. If the gap gets above 3.5, we'll come in and we'll make our stop. That, I'm sure, is to cut off the threat of any undercut from Max Verstappen behind. That's still the possibility that Red Bull could trigger that one. And is it wise? I wanted to bring Valtteri Bottas in to get him out of this particular scrap at the moment so we can just carry on running a race to the lap times that Mercedes want without that threat of Verstappen behind him.
Yeah, what they're also wanting to do is not pit and then have a safety car situation. So they're going as long as they can in case there's a safety car.
The joy is they have no historical data to say how often you're likely to get a safety car. It's only the second time that we've been here, and we didn't get one, of course, last year. It was a bit of a freak safety car because of that incident with Raikkonen and Giovinazzi on lap 1. So you kind of hedge your bets and say, around here, are you likely to get a safety car? Probably not. But if it does come and catch you out, it could absolutely ruin your race. If you've pitted and the guys behind you then get 10 seconds of extra time saved because they can pit behind Bernd Mailander. That gap's edging to about 3.3 seconds between Hamilton and Bottas at the moment.
And of course Lewis still has the extra World Championship point for fastest lap at this stage.
That's fastest lap point that he picked up in Imola, of course, keeping Hamilton ahead on points of Verstappen going into this race. Talking of Verstappen, here we go again. And he get past Valtteri Bottas. He's just... look, the Mercedes and the Red Bull were within about 3 kilometres of an hour of each other in qualifying. He just can't find a way past. Although Nicholas Latifi can find a way past his teammate George Russell down the straight. Latifi pulls the move on Russell. Qualified 11th, his highest ever grid spot for the Williams team, but has sadly been going backwards during the race so far.
He has. I don't know what kind of gremlins he's carrying, if any, but he's basically running last now, is George, from 11th on the grid, as you said. So he's certainly not had anything like the race pace he did in qualifying.
On board with Max Verstappen, 28 points better off in the Drivers' Championship after 2 races in 2021 than he was last season. Never led the Formula 1 Drivers' Championship. Will have come here this weekend thinking, I've got half a chance of that particular streak ending. As it is at the moment, Hamilton is way out in front and is currently 4 seconds clear of Verstappen on the road on lap 31, but we're not quite at half race distance yet. Still a long way to go here in Portimao this afternoon. On the fastest lap for Lewis Hamilton. That's how fast is his teammate going. A 1:21.9 for Hamilton on that last lap. A 1:22.1 for Valtteri Bottas. He was 3/10 quicker than Max.
And they're going faster and faster. The tyre degradation, as we said, is not particularly high.
So we're looking to go long here, Checo.
Okay, so Red Bull, even without a brand new set of soft tyres, thinking, okay, if we go long on these, we can put the softs on and be faster at the end.
So why are they going faster and faster? Track rubber's in a little bit more with 19 cars circulating, but you're using up your fuel load. As we approach half distance, their cars are now 50 kilos lighter, and therefore you can save 0.3 of a second per 10 kilos, 1.5 seconds less time you need to carry the fuel around the racetrack. So that's why they're edging ever faster when they've got so little tyre degradation.
Lance Stroll, 31 laps completed on a set of soft compound tyres with that full load of fuel right at the start. He hasn't pitted yet, running 7th, started 17th, but that's a creditable performance there on the soft compound tyre, and he's still the highest runner at the moment who started on the softs. Down the main straight we come once again. Is Verstappen close enough? It doesn't look like it as they make their way down the straight. The gap was 3.5 seconds between Hamilton and Bottas, but they didn't think about bringing Bottas in, and Verstappen hasn't got DRS to challenge the Finn in the Mercedes on this particular lap. We're at half race distance. Ted, down to you.
Do you remember that Hamilton radio message? These tyres are shot.
Yes.
Yeah. You're not fooling anyone, Lewis. Not at all. Interestingly, actually, McLaren's tyre guru has been on the radio to Lando Norris saying, look, with these medium tyres, you might get a phase of graining, but we promise you they will clear up. So maybe that's what Hamilton said, meant, or felt, when he said that these tyres are shot. But maybe there's a code word. Maybe when he says, guys, when I say shot, I mean that's the opposite. When I say they're finished, then I really mean it. Come in, bring me in and box me. Anyway, still no action in the pit boxes here.
Of course, what would have helped Martin is that he managed to get past his teammate after saying the tyres were shot, and he's now got some nice clean air in front of him.
Yeah, you can work through any graining phase. Not that we've seen a huge amount of graining on the mediums anyway, but yeah, you eventually scrub off all those little balls of rubber on the surface.
Ocon gets close to Gasly in front of him. Both of these two have been in the pits to change tyres, and Ocon on the hard compound tyre, as you can see, with this nice white stripe.
It's another good lap, mate. That's quicker than those cars again. This is going well. This is going well.
Well, Ricciardo's last lap, a 1:22.9. Alonso behind him, the same 1:22.9. Stroll into the low 1:23s on the soft tyre. Norris, who's pitted, low 1:23. So Ricciardo on medium tyres that he's been running throughout this race, 10th of a second quicker than his teammate on the last lap.
It's definitely working well for him, isn't it? If he can keep that up, it might just leapfrog him through that whole midfield for Daniel Ricciardo.
I just put in the stat, just for sheer devilment, about half an hour before the start of the race, Martin, that the last McLaren driver to not make it through from Q1 was Carlos Sainz back in Brazil in 2019. And Carlos Sainz went from last that day to eventually finish on the podium long after everyone had gone home, of course. Could Daniel Ricciardo do it again today? Well, he's up to 5th at the moment. He's got to stop once again. He's got an awful lot to achieve. But a safety car for Daniel Ricciardo at the moment wouldn't be a bad time, would it?
Would be helpful to a few of them out there, actually.
Here goes Ocon on Gasly. Wasn't close enough on the last lap. Is close enough on this lap. Pierre Gasly, to be charitable, was kind of close enough to staying on this lap as he gets overtaken by the Alpine and drops down into 12th place.
The AlphaTauri should have a World Championship point just for the white wheels.
We can see once again Ocon getting past Gasly through into turn 1. While we're watching this, it's Sergio Perez at the moment on the timing screen, Martin, starting to bang in some purple sector times. Perez on those medium compound tyre, has he worked his way through the graining process?
There is any graining, but he's working his way through the fuel, as we said, and finding some confidence. Yeah, just 9 seconds behind his teammate now, and he was fastest man on the track last time around, as you spotted, Crofty.
Sergio Perez going very nicely indeed, but sadly for him, lost out quite a bit at the start when he got overtaken by a couple of cars and eventually fought his way back past Lando Norris, running in 4th, a comfortable 4th for him at the moment, but a long way behind his teammate, nearly 9 seconds between Verstappen and Perez. Right, so the gap's now 3.8 seconds. This radio message is a long time out of date, but are Mercedes thinking we can get Valtteri Bottas in, or has the gap now between Bottas and Verstappen opened up nicely enough for Bottas to not feel too threatened? Either way, Red Bull are going to pull the trigger and take the gamble with Max Verstappen and make the first pit stop of the top 3 runners.
And what are they going to put on it? They do have a brand new set of hard compound tyres, which is what you'd expect to be going on.
It is the hard compound tyre.
Verstappen is boxing, pick up the pace.
So Valtteri now has got 2.9 miles of absolute flat out, as fast as you can go, Valtteri, to make sure that you come into the pits and get out ahead of Verstappen. Red Bull have taken the gamble. Will it work?
Well, Latifi, Russell and Mick Schumacher are up ahead of him, but far enough that will allow him to get a decent outlap in. Oh, well, it doesn't matter about those, does it? As long as you weren't speeding when you went through the 80k, 50 miles an hour loop. It doesn't matter about the tyres because they're rubbish now anyway. And they will be granulated and taken away. But was he speeding?
Well, that we don't know just yet, but if he did get it absolutely perfect, he might just have shaved a few hundredths off in that late braking move there.
Because what you don't want to do is undershoot the speed either there, because you're just giving away tenths.
So, 6% chance of a Verstappen overtake. It's just creeping up bit by bit by bit, but that is not factoring in the performance of the Mercedes pit crew, who are standing by Ted Kravitz for Valtteri Bottas.
This needs to be perfect, wasn't it? 2.3 seconds for Red Bull. It needs to be 2 seconds to give Valtteri a real fighting chance. That's sweet, that's not so bad. What's the time, Crofty, as it comes up?
3.3 seconds.
Oh, I'm not sure. Not sure. It's going to be tight.
Right, so Valtteri Bottas, 80 kilometres an hour down the pit straight. You can see Max Verstappen just coming round the final corner at the top of your screen. Bottas should stay out in front here, although Verstappen is gaining on him very, very swiftly. But it was enough of a gap that Bottas had over Verstappen to get into the pits and out ahead. Question now, Martin Brundle, on colder tyres, can he stay ahead?
This is his moment. Look at that, sliding like crazy as Valtteri Bottas trying to get the power down, and immediately then Verstappen has a run at the inside down into turn 5. He's got all the track position he needs. Now he will just finish the job off, and that all started when Bottas lit up the rear axle coming out of turn 3 into 4, and Max just came up the inside of him with more confidence, more knowledge, more tyre temperature.
That's okay.
Box.
Hamilton's coming in, had a much bigger gap over second place than Valtteri Bottas had over Max Verstappen when Red Bull decided to start making a few pit stops here. It has worked for Red Bull. Verstappen has got ahead of Bottas. He will be very keen to get past Hamilton, I'm sure, but he has got back markers in his way. Schumacher, Latifi, Russell, all in Verstappen's way as he makes his way around turn 14 now. That's Sergio Perez going through your screen and through into turn 1 now. Verstappen is just coming round the final corner. Hamilton is a long way clear, and on the hard compound tyres should have enough of a buffer, even on colder hard compound tyres, to stay ahead.
Perez leads, of course, because he hasn't pitted, and that, their 2.5 second stop for Hamilton.
Just going to be a tricky bit of warm-up for the first sector at least.
As your teammate found out, Lewis, 2.5 second stop for Hamilton, 3.3 second stop for Valtteri Bottas. Mercedes say they know that they're slightly slower than they really want to be in those pit stops. Did 0.8 of a second, I wonder, make a difference there for Valtteri Bottas, with or without getting all squirrely out of turn 4. Verstappen wasn't exactly clean as he lit up the rear axle as well. And we can ride on board now with Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc at the moment in 9th place, ahead of his teammate Carlos Sainz, and that rather looks like Sainz has been instructed to let your teammate through on those hard tyres. Such was the pace. This is Verstappen and Bottas once again. So we'll watch Bottas, so tentative into that corner, getting out of shape on the exit. Verstappen knew at this moment, Martin Brundle, that with DRS, that place was going to be his.
Yes, come on.
Yeah, nice clean move. Valtteri, I think, had the grip to be able to necessarily come across and try to cover that one off, but nonetheless, once again, that instinctive, streetwise sort of killer instinct that we know Hamilton and Verstappen have, and he's through.
Absolutely worked, didn't it? So as you said, Sergio Perez leads this race, 12.5 seconds gap to Lewis Hamilton. We're on board with Perez now, but he is yet to make his pit stop in this race. Valtteri Bottas is now down into 4th. Max Verstappen ahead of the Mercedes, 3.1 seconds behind Hamilton.
So we are unsafe to Perez on a safety car.
Yeah, and that's Red Bull have the advantage, don't they, now that Perez is running at the sharp end of the race. They could split strategy a little bit. Safety car now would be very advantageous for Perez. Down to you, Ted.
Yeah, they'd luck into it, wouldn't they, if a safety car happened now?
It's happened before,
well, I suppose so. They're not going to have it's gone are the days in Formula One of having a subservient junior team to cause a safety car for you. That just doesn't happen anymore. There is AlphaTauri out there, but Yuki Tsunoda's going well anyway.
It was a junior teammate that caused the safety car back in 2008.
That's true, but undoubtedly when Sergio does pit, he's going to go onto the soft tyres, isn't he?
Yeah, and will be very racing.
Will be very racing afterwards. So it's not over yet. Not over yet for Red Bull.
Such a long camera angle. I thought the Red Bull had slowed down, but it hasn't. Well, of Perez there. Perez leads then by 12.1 seconds. It's around 24 and a half seconds to stop by and collect some fresh boots.
If there was a safety car now, Perez could pit and get out ahead of Bottas. That's why that message came out from Valtteri's race engineer, Riccardo Mosconi, just to say, right, come on, we've got to pick up the pace a little bit here as well. Picking up the pace behind Hamilton, 2/10 quicker on the last lap, was Max Verstappen. The gap round about 3 seconds as Lance Stroll pits and can finally get rid of the soft compound tyre that he's been running from the start of this race. Vibrations increasing, says Sergio Perez, on the medium compound tyre that he's been running since the start of this race. And Lance Stroll will come out of the pits behind Antonio Giovinazzi, who was behind Stroll's teammate at Aston Martin, Sebastian Vettel, on the fringes of the points, but expect Stroll to be a lot more competitive in the last few laps as well, on much fresher tyres than those around him. We're running on board with Esteban Ocon now, down in 10th place. It's not really been the race that Ocon was expecting, I think, starting as high as he did in 6th place. He's lost 4 places during the course of it. Now has Carlos Sainz ahead of him after Sainz let Leclerc by, Ferrari running 8th and 9th. Lando Norris in 7th behind Alonso, who is yet to stop for a new set of tyres, and Daniel Ricciardo, who's also got to make a visit to the pits.
Yeah, Ricciardo then late 22, 1 minute 22s at the moment. Yeah, Stroll's tyres 17 laps younger than his teammate Vettel, who's just up the road, and they've got Giovinazzi between them for good measure.
Williams pit crew, the Alpine pit crew, waiting then for Fernando Alonso. Hard compound tyre going on for Alonso.
17 laps younger than his teammate Vettel, who's just up the road. And they've got Giovinazzi between them for good measure.
Williams pit crew, the Alpine pit crew, waiting then for Fernando Alonso.
Hehehe